Maybe I
Yeah,
missed
he
that.
said he would
Yes,
be
they
there.
said
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
He did.
Great. So we will call to order the October 18th, 2022 Capital Region Finance Committee
Yes.
Meeting first.
Yes.
And on the committee are Kathy Rooney, Robert DiCaprio, and Joe Berlin. So
we will review the 2023 budget for the board to approve following the committee approval. So what you will find is our standard format that is for us to submit to the Authority Budget Office before November 1, 2021 actuals, 2022 forecast. This was a year where we were very, very fortunate to have the support of Schenectady County at $750,000 on top of the $75,000 we've received annually. We have not received that funding yet, primarily because we have been kind of in a holding pattern to see what is going to come out of the state with funding, and also with the moratoriums on the foreclosures, fewer vacant properties coming through the pipeline. So we're holding back, seeing how we wanted to spend money moving forward. We have now received that contract from the county, and you'll see that our 2022 forecast shows $925,000 of municipal subsidies and grants, $75,000 plus the $750 from Schenectady County, and then there was an additional $100,000 that we received from the city of Schenectady that was for their share of the renovation at 110 Prospect. I think that equals the 925. If it doesn't, there's something else in there.
That's what equals it.
Great. 12,000 non-governmental grants. That is our oversight for the Wallingford Park project. Total revenue is $937,000. Our expenditures, we had ceased our management agreement with Metroplex. They continue to provide the services at no cost until we identified future revenue sources. We continue to employ Nick Zabowski with Orion to oversee our work in Amsterdam. We have been busy with Amsterdam with the Legacy Cities project. It's been a bear of an underwriting, but an important project, and he's working hard on that for us. And you'll see the other expenses. Our legal costs have picked back up, knowing that we are receiving the New York State Land Bank Initiative funding. We've started to catch up some more on our, making sure all of our policies, procedures are in place, and starting to work on the actions for a zombie assistance for the towns in Schenectady County.
Do I not have?
The budget is for, yeah. It's
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
sorry.
it's right here.
I was like, maybe.
So operating expenditures, 40,346, anticipated for the rest of 2022. And our project expenses are 330,256, 2 demolitions that we've done. And then again, the work we've done at 110 Prospect. Any questions on the 2022
You said
forecast?
40,000 for the rest of the year. You're considering 40,000 for the full year?
Yeah, for the full year, by the end of the year. Yeah, that's with projections toward to the end of the year.
Do we have a timetable for potential funding from the state?
Yes. For administrative funding?
Yeah.
That's here. Yeah.
But the other part?
They had indicated that it was going to be that an RFP would be going out in the fall. The administrative money was supposed to be summer, and that got pushed back. So if not the end of this year, early 2023.
All right, thanks.
You've got a resolution for that part of the administrative funding for $100,000 with the potential for $200,000.
Right.
You do not anticipate getting any of that this year?
We will receive $25,000 upon delivery of the agreements in place. So we are in October right now.
So you should expect $25,000 this year. So that should be included in this proposed under
Yes,
state
it will
funding.
either be the very, very end of this year by the time it gets turned out of the state, or it's next. If you want me to put 25,000 into
Well,
this,
what I'm wondering is where that money is going to appear in the
Mhm.
budget at all, either under 2022 or 23.
yeah, I mean,
'Cause I don't see it. There's nothing under state subsidies or grants in either year.
that is a very, very, very good point. I think I started working on this prior to that.
That probably
So,
is the
yeah.
case, but I mean, we should show it. I don't care which one we show it at, but we should show that at some point. And since we're anticipating 200,000, we should put the 200,000 in.
That's correct. You know what? I showed it in other grant income,
I
and
was
it's just,
guess-
it's
I
not,
was
it's
guessing
in,
that.
yeah, and it just didn't show up in the,
Okay, well, let's change it to put it under state subsidy grant. And then 2,200 would be the amount coming from other non-governments.
change. Yeah, and non-governmental, yes, for 2023. So I'm gonna put 75,000.
Assuming the state is as efficient as it usually is. But we have the agreements will give us the money until next year, right?
Well, I mean, it's great that we're in a good cash position, so we're gonna start moving our programs forward. Yes, I'm making the assumption it was $200,000 for next year. I'm gonna change that to 175,000
Okay.
based on the 1 quarter.
Right, and then put the 25 into the 2022 forecast.
It'd be 150,000, not 175, because they're not gonna make up, so they're giving 25 for this quarter,
Okay,
but as they amend it, then it would be 50 a quarter after that.
okay.
Gotcha.
Yep, I worked with Tonya to make that change. Thank you.
I see why we're putting the same basic figures for each year after 2023, but I think that's unrealistic. But I don't think the state's going to care about that.
Yeah, we just really don't know where our revenue will be coming at that
Well,
point.
I'm more concerned with the expenditure than I am on the revenue side, but I think it's logical to do that. The question that I have is why do we think that we're going to spend more money on projects that we're actually going to be taking in?
Well, because we have a balance of funds that we want to eventually spend down. We think there's about $1 million in the Schenectady account. Really, the past few years during the pandemic, it's been just on hold. So hopefully we'll turn those into projects that create revenue, but we'll see which way we go.
This then is the opportunity to do my annual type of thing, because David and I have already talked about this. We do not do a carryover from prior years on the budget. So we have funds left that we own that we have not used, and that's what David is talking about. So that's why while it says at the end of 23, we'll have about $100,000 deficit, that simply means that the amount of funds that we have in reserve will be reduced by 100,000. Clearly, when we go into 24, that's going to go down significantly unless we get a lot more money coming in. But we don't know where that is. And that cushion is what's kept us going every time that we don't know what's going on. And I simply say that's the members of the committee know what we're talking about. And they just don't look at the thing and say, my God, you're going to lose $750,000 next year or the year after. And the answer is no, we're going to just reduce our fund balance.
Mhm.
If David put down that we were going to have a deficit of $2 million, then I'd start to be really worried.
And we'll see, we'll see what the state ends up funding moving forward. It's always just a guess. Been very fortunate. We're gonna have 2 great years of activity. Those Legacy City projects are gonna be very important, I think, in Amsterdam, and we'll see what other opportunities come up. We should start thinking, I'll talk to Nick about getting the Amsterdam Advisory Committee together as more state project funding comes available, what's the next focus area for Amsterdam as well. But we are, the state hasn't put anything out there as to how much money will be available per land bank. What type of projects? Is it renovations? Is it demolition? I know they're leaning towards renovations, but it's kind of a wait and see. The important part here is that to get the $200,000, we need to show expenditures of over $1 million in next year. So we've done that. 2024, you see, is a little bit light of that, but we're doing the 2024 budget, we should have a better idea of what state funding we also have in there. So next year, it will, knowing what we have, what we'll be spending still of the Schenectady County money that was made available, we'll be over that $1 million mark again.
You're just picking up on what you said.
Mhm.
You said we need in 23 $1 million budget.
Yep.
In order to get the 200.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
The way the memo indicated that we need to have more than we spent or projecting to spend in 22. So we're projecting 937,000, so do a little bit of extra.
Well, with the expenditures in 2022 were 370,000.
Oh.
And that's why I tried to make the case that, look, we've been over $1 million historically. We chose not to spend a lot of money, not knowing where the funds were coming from.
Right.
And, it's great they're working with us to increase the
Yeah.
amount because they are used to land banks that have 6, 7, 8 people on staff. We're lucky not to have that.
Right.
But we can certainly put the money to good use. Working with better community neighborhoods to support their operation will be a terrific, I think really fits our mission as well here in Schenectady.
And the fact that the towns in Schenectady County are starting to say, hey, wait a minute, we can work in there because we haven't done that substantially.
Yeah, well, we have the expertise now in the Land Bank Association. I know Rich has gone out and Kristen went to the last meeting. We've made some good policy changes at the state level that really give new tools to our towns that they have not fully implemented yet. So it's the good government side of it that's will be fun to work on next few years.
I'll move the proposed budget with the changes in the income that we've discussed.
A second.
All right. We can close the finance committee meeting.
Then we've got all.
You got to call a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Who
Do I
chair- who
do I
chair-
call it, or
No,
did he?
who chairs the committee? You have to appoint one.
Did I need
That's
to
your
do that?
appointment.
Did I need to do that before we started?
No, you can do it now.
Okay, and it has to be a number besides you guys?
Has to be one
Okay.
of
It has
The
to be
three
one
of
of them.
us.
Oh, okay, then Joe, you're the chair.
That's what I thought. So you closing
So I
the
appoint
finance
you as
committee?
chairman of the finance committee.
Then, do we have any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Since there's no other business for the finance committee, we stand adjourned.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for running the finance committee, and Executive Director Hogenkamp, thank you for putting together a smart budget. I'm glad that we're able to have that conversation. I'm going to call to order now the October 18th, 2022 Capital Region Land Bank meeting. The minutes from the last meeting that we had, which was actually May 17th, 2022. You guys had a great summer. We have not rested on our laurels. Lots of activity that we'll hear about shortly. But can I get an approval of those minutes?
Move the minutes as
second.
noted.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye, those opposed nay.
Aye.
Minutes are moved. Joe, would you like to give a treasurer's report from last meeting?
Hang on, get to the right page. We've spent some money in the past,
That was the goal.
5 months since we've actually had a treasurer's report. The administrative account seems to be fairly stable. We've moved a lot of administrative expenses onto the projects, which we should be doing. Amsterdam has a balance at the end of September of just under 189,000. The Schenectady account is just is a bit under 927,000, so we have $1,119,000 available in our three bank accounts. I noted David and I were talking about it. If you want to turn to page, let's see. No, it's not maybe I missed
No, yeah, it's right after the profit and loss, it's the back page.
Okay, the capital project report. If you will notice on the capital project report, that it is indicating that there are some projects that we are currently working on, which are currently over budget. That's not an excessive amount except for the DePaul Amsterdam, I assume that is.
No, if it's minus, it means we have not spent money yet. The only one
I'm
would be
looking
110
at the wrong,
prospect.
I'm doing the wrong way. The prospect, 110 is the one that.
Yep,
we've done
$18,000.
substantially
And
over.
the Wallingford Park, that we spent extra $11,000 on there.
So we wanted to be able to make certain that folks are aware that on this, what we're showing, this is where we are under budget and where we're over budget. And remember that the budgets are really estimates. So that we're reasonably close. When you take a look at spending $220,000 with a budget of $200,000 and you're only over it by less than 10%, that's not bad. But I just want to make certain that the board is aware of where we are on those. I know that's a question that we had, in our early years, we were asking on a repeated basis, and we really didn't have that type of information.
As we moved away from grant reporting, which it was, we were spending down based on the grant, and now just really focusing on the projects that we have ongoing, we added this capital project report. The board has not approved specific budget numbers. This is just what we anticipated spending. And there's good reasons for all of them. I have not changed the budget, but for example, for the Wallingford Park project, there was additional work that we undertook and then additional revenue that was received to do that work. Invested in new sidewalks and just, did those things that was going to be that lasting difference for that park. With 110 Prospect, we had originally decided not to put kitchens in because we wanted to see how the property is going to be used. The purchaser, based on his mortgage he was getting and also what he wanted to have us put kitchens in. So we spent an extra $13,000 on kitchens, a few other change orders here and there. And we have held that property longer than anticipated, which means more national grid bills. So
When we go, if we go back to the budget, you can see that under project expenses, it is a lump sum figure. It is not project by project. At some points when we do resolutions, we do have a proposed budget within that resolution. But that's not part of the overall budget picture. As long as we don't spend more than we have budgeted for the year for the projects, we're fine. If we're going to go over that figure, we'd have to come back to the board and have an amendment to the annual budget. We haven't done that, but that gives you the idea from here as to where things are. Anybody have any questions? Then I will move the finance report.
Thank you, Joe. Can I get a second on that?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Treasury report is moved. Thanks for catching us up, Joe.
I'll add one item that David and I have talked about is that I have to reconcile the months of May, June, and July.
Mhm.
I reconciled the months of August and September,
Okay.
but David just sent me those.
yeah, we've done that internally with the finance director.
Yeah.
I just got the information on it.
I mean, and I'm
You're
certain.
putting a
there's no-
third set of eyeballs on it to make sure
I'm
it
certain,
ties out.
yeah, I'm certain that everything's on there without any problems. But I
And
haven't-
you and I have signed off on every expenditure. We've double checked the supporting memo. Now you're going to reconcile.
Yeah.
Very good.
Except that there's one item that David had to sign, which you were aware of. And just for the board's knowledge, it's the matter that if we are paying one of the signees, they cannot sign the check.
Yeah, so the
So
three of
the
us are all
executive
signatories.
director is authorized as one of the, they have to have two signatures of the three people.
Okay.
I had so full disclosure, I had an expenditure in signing off on checks. I signed my own check. So these guys backed it up and put two more signatures on it. So.
Thank you.
I remember that.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for the detail. Thanks for the specific eye for the detail and the integrity, right? That's what I appreciate. And that's what makes me feel very confident when we walk into these meetings, that we have all of our ducks in a row and all of our I's dotted. So thank you. Okay, we'll move to Chairman and Executive Director report. Briefly, I made a few talking points. We haven't talked since May, but again, 5 months of activity was not inactive. We've been working very hard in the background with each one of your help. We appreciate the board being steadfast and coming to the table when necessary or being part of conversations outside of this meeting that helped continue our work, whether that be with respect to Legacy Cities, right? With Nick and all the hard work he's doing in Amsterdam, tremendous amount of effort there. That's a transformative project in terms of kind of that continuum of development, small developer, really big impact to local neighborhoods. Part of our mission, part of our what we've been doing for almost 10 years now. Funding. David already spoke to the county through ARPA allocations. I advocated for and received $750,000 in funding from my colleagues on the county legislature for fiscal 22. And with good advocacy, we'll get another $750 for fiscal 23 as well. And I believe that that's going to happen in very short order. I did advocate to the other FGUs, Amsterdam and the city of Schenectady, for ARPA funds. In both cases, they allocated dollars to other projects, and I believe that that's not a slight on our efforts. I believe that it's a function of we have been successful in finding funds and in finding streams of dollars that we've been able to leverage. So I don't take any umbrage by Amsterdam didn't allocate any ARPA. They had a small allocation from the federal government, and the city of Schenectady had a lot of activity around ARPA. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that between the 2 years of ARPA funding out of the county, the Land Bank Initiative, in which we actively pursued and supported Senator Hinchy and a number of others, with a $50 million rural grant, rural initiatives grant, which also sprung more land bank dollars. All of this comes around, and we've had great performance. And I do not doubt that we will continue to see the benefit of our 10 years of leaned in commitment to our communities. We have, sorry, I took notes on my phone. Along those lines, Land Bank Initiative, our focus will be in trying to help facilitate now, moving our focus from a wrecking ball and renovations, not saying we're getting away from that, but moving the focus to how do we help the communities, the counties, the towns, the cities, the villages to advocate or accelerate zombie properties from being a zombie to being back on the tax roll. Is there a renovation that needs to occur? Is there grant money that needs to be found? Is there support that we can accelerate with the help of BCNI or other members of the community that have some of those tools at their disposal? So we are the bigger tool, and we're going to help them try to find their way to the dollars to help at the ground level. DePaul and Amsterdam, what a great project, right? Just transformative on the west end, east end rather. So that's on schedule and moving forward. And I saw pictures just recently, and the project looks fantastic, and we're excited about that. And again, I've said this probably in 3 meetings now. I know that our efforts in Amsterdam resulted in DePaul making an investment and accelerating their activities here in this community, whether it's in Amsterdam, on Crane Street, if that pulls through, some of the other things that they've done. We did that. The community did that, but we had a lot of push into that pressure, right, into that engine. Legacy Cities, we just talked about. Eastern Avenue getting HCR. Also BCNI, HCR, another large leveraged, project. We put a little bit of dollars into it, and that's going to result in a transformative project for the Eastern Avenue corridor for senior living, right? This isn't market rate. These are the folks that are at risk getting new housing. Cocoa House, that we leaned into Will Rivas and the Cocoa House and the activities that are going on there. We've seen a lot of progress in the last probably 90 days. Siding and roof and HVAC and a number of things. And that's for them to expand their capacity, to help more at-risk kids, to help the community, to benefit from all the programs that for the last 20 years the Cocoa House has been actively engaged in. So we believe that that's a really important thing, and they're moving, and that's, again, a big help from the land bank. We've got officers that I think we need to reappoint, right? That's coming up at the end of the year, so be prepared for that. I would like to have a conversation with each of you and ask about roles and responsibilities. I certainly would like to continue to be the chairman, but I will support whatever the decision is made by the board. And
That's the first meeting of the year.
first meeting. And then we do want to talk about some other board activities at some point tonight.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I had. Sorry, we have some business to take care of that we'll go over, but we had some zombie properties that we moved on, Rotterdam Junction and Niskayuna. So the towns and villages are getting our focus when it comes to Schenectady County and in Amsterdam. We're very committed to seeing success there. So.
Yeah, I just add to the report, the executive committee met on June 7th, 2022. We previously approved acquiring 1233 Main Street, town of Rotterdam, and subsequently demolishing the building. The seller was going to donate to the land bank $10,000 as part of the transaction. He came back to us and said he doesn't have that capital to be able to put into the donation. Brought that to the executive committee, and we decided to move forward with the acquisition and the demolition of a long blighted building. Really helped clean up the main 5S Main Street in Rotterdam Junction. Just wanted to make the board aware, and we'll memorialize that in the minutes of the change. Yeah, other than that, I just, again, a lot of state resources that are out there. We're watching the new programs that are coming out, a new affordable housing infill, new construction program was just announced. We're making sure that our partners know and are aware of that. The Live in Schenectady Berry Street initiative, we were out there today with the state showing them the opportunities to help complete that project. Doing a lot of work on the other main corridors in Schenectady. Van Branken, Metroplex has put forward a grant to assist a local developer who is acquiring the former Cornell's properties, the Ritz, and we'll be demolishing those and again taking advantage of state resources, programs that are available for new construction. He's working on a project plan right now, but we'll be removing that blight hopefully by the end of the year.
Do I assume that 1233 has been demolished?
Yep, 1233 is done. It's down. The water's been disconnected. Town is very, very happy to see that come down.
That had been left behind from Hurricane
Irene.
Right?
PTSD.
Yeah, right. I was just going to say, gosh, sorry to bring that up. Thank you, County Manager Rudy, for getting us through that. But that house was one of the ones that got left behind, and the community suffered as a result of it. And when we went, we did a stand-up there. There was 2 or 3 people that came out, and they were like, "Are you taking this down?" And we're like, "You'll see, the wrecking ball here in whatever 3 weeks." And all we got was a lot of praise and support for, making that investment.
Definitely.
So that was great. Okay, well, we have 7 items for consideration and board action tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first item, 2022-11, is entering into an agreement which with the Housing Trust Fund Corporation for the Land Bank Initiative funding. This again comes out of the desire to add administrative capacity because they recognize the importance and the impact that land banks have. And how can they help provide more horsepower? David, can you summarize a little further?
Yeah, great. I mean, we talked about it with the budget, $100,000, we'll go up to $200,000 once we present the 2023 budget of over $1 million of anticipated expenses. This is great for all land banks across the state, particularly for us. It will help us continue to pay for our services through Metroplex, which I think has been a great partnership. I hope you all agree, and let us do some, really use the powers of the land bank to take it to the next level rather than just projects, demolitions all the time. So I'm really excited about what this money will bring to the table and getting into some of the soft powers of the land bank using this administrative funding.
We've spoken to all the FGU leaders, right? County managers, Gary McCarthy, City of Schenectady, and Americ Cinquanti. And I've always said, this is a tool. This is a tool that we want to keep sharp and support our communities. And this is one of those sharpening moments. So can I get
Move the motion.
move? Thank you. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And this has been the 50-year fight to be able to get the state, this Kristen knows, to recognize that they've got to provide administrative funding for not just land banks, but for all of the agencies that they've created to be able to do the work that they want done.
Right.
BCNI had some great presentations to the state, how they're modernizing their activities, becoming more efficient. So the state was more than happy to see that we were combining our efforts to help both organizations. So it's a nice place for it.
We'll talk about BCNI more in a second, but let's get to item number 2, which is Resolution 2022-12. And this is a Town of Niskayuna Zombie Cooperation Agreement. We've done cooperation agreements before with municipalities and/or individual towns and villages. And this is another one with the Town of Niskayuna. Can you summarize?
Yeah, great. For those of us who have worked in local government, we know we all wish we had more people to focus on some of these, real important but kind of obscure issues like zombie properties, like vacant and abandoned properties. The Town of Niskayuna has taken some steps. They had a vacant property registry, but it has not stayed up to date with some of the new changes in real property tax law that have been put into effect for purposes of moving these properties back to productive use faster. What we'd like to do is enter into a cooperation agreement with the Town of Niskayuna and Schenectady County, which is the foreclosing governmental unit for Niskayuna, to put these best practices into play. Specifically, the reason why Schenectady County would be engaged is that they would be committing to foreclose on properties that are properly notified as abandoned after the 1 year of tax delinquency, which is the change in the law prior to COVID. It's a real strong change, positive change. Schenectady County will still wait 4 years for properties that are not vacant or abandoned, which is their policy. But we know what a vacant property means to the neighborhood, and this will allow the Town of Niskayuna to do what's necessary, build the policies and procedures that are necessary to allow the county to do that. We'll have some options there to take the property for right of first refusal if we feel that it's in the county or in the town's best interest to make improvements to that property and renovate it, or we could just let it go into back to the private market, which I think we're all fine with as well. But this will be our kind of the pilot of how we can work with the towns. They've been more than amenable to us providing the service, and with your support, looking forward to moving it forward.
More tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, well, hopefully what it'll also do is that when it goes up, if it does not come into our domain, that they have restrictive agreements for whoever buys it, so that it doesn't go.
End up in the same direction.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Well, I think as to your point, Joe,
We've seen that too often.
I think to your point, David talked about best practices.
Yeah,
and
no,
that's part of what this
Yeah,
is.
that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
that's part of the thing.
Well, the county's been more than supportive with financial support. I can't appreciate it any more than I already do. But you know, if we end up taking some of these properties and it just creates more revenue sources for us, and then we get them into the right hands, that's
Yeah,
about as
well,
good as we do.
it also means that the local government agent needs to be able to also understand that type of situation.
That's right.
And they've not been involved with this type of thing before, so they have to know what is best practice, which may mean that they forgive some money that they
Yeah,
might be able
absolutely.
to get to be able to do a longer term benefit. And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the education process.
First, I'd just like to thank you and the staff for taking this on. I think it's a fantastic model. I think what another added value of it is that you folks are setting it up sort of as a template model that can be replicated. So it's that best practice kind of continue to do the same thing and you can roll it out much easier and building capacity on it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great project.
It's exactly what David's intention was, is exactly what we talked about, and it's to be able to scale it to within all the little
Yeah,
perks.
yeah. Great.
Could I get a motion in support?
I'll move.
Thank you, and a second. And all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Okay, third item, we talked about BCNI and their really significant work that they've done. They coalesced a number of community agencies. Everyone had great mission and vision, but with too many agencies within a community or within a larger community, I think everyone's kind of trying to do the same thing. And when they came together, I think they were able to really accelerate and add value to the bigger picture, which was how do they help communities to benefit from redevelopment, renovation, HCR granting. How do we make sure that the Main Street funds, I use that phrase loosely, but how do we get those Main Street funds to where we need them? And Jenica Huff and her team have created a data model, created a forecasting model. They've created a real data-driven analysis of here's where the investments are, here's where they are really impacting community. And we saw that, she presented it to us, and we thought this is one of the ways that we believe that we can delegate to elevate this board's mission, which is to remove blight, to renovate our community, and to drive more revitalization. So 2022-13, David, if you can summarize for the board, this is a great resolution.
Yep, with the Land Bank Initiative funds, one of our work items was to contract with BCNI to provide us some services, project management, housing development, work on projects, build projects together. You'll see on the material that I shared with you that they had provided a letter of up to $50,000 annually. That was when we were trying to make the case based on previous spending, we should get our $200,000 immediately. They said, show us a budget for 2023. What I'd like to do today is to have the board authorize entering into contract with BCNI for an hourly not to exceed contract of $25,000. We can come back and amend that when more funding is received from the state. Kathy and I discussed, we looked at the letter. I'll be doing some more negotiation on hourly rates, make sure we get the value that we're looking from their partnership, and that they're getting the value that we can offer to continue to build their team. Kristen works extremely hard with her department. We work hard here with minimal staff, so the more that they can build their team and support themselves, the better for our community development efforts.
And just for clarity, does that funding go towards just their projects or mutual projects or both, or how?
Yeah, I think we had a preliminary meeting about kind of just discussing where we'd like to show support. I've expressed Legacy Cities Initiative. I'd very much like to see that surrounding the DePaul project on Queen Street, the mix of new affordable rentals plus home ownership opportunities, right? Building that great mix. So we can drive where that funding goes. A lot of the projects though, they've got a lot of great projects too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
trying not to be too prescriptive in nature, but yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we'll guide, and we'll talk about corridor, and we'll talk about important focus. But I think they've got a lot of energy that aligns with what we're trying to do.
So you did mention that encumbered several agencies. Now it's all under one umbrella.
Yeah, that's correct. So Better Neighborhoods Incorporated merged with the Community and Land Trust of Schenectady to have one organization. And it's been a great thing for Schenectady. They do have the ability to do work in beyond Schenectady, the city of Schenectady, Schenectady County, and even into Amsterdam. I believe that they do provide home counseling services in Montgomery County as well. So there was a lot of cleanup to do with the merging of those two organizations, but I think that would be a great opportunity for Amsterdam to find the right project or program to invite Better Neighborhoods in DCNI.
I was just gonna say, I think it's the same as what I said last time. This is about capacity building.
Mhm.
And with the strengthening of the multiple agencies into one, the fact that we can partner with them and use their services and build them at the same time, I think it's a win-win.
We took about $10 million over the last 10 years and leveraged that into about $100 million of development and renovation and revitalization in our community. If we can now do similar, maybe not on that same scale, because I don't think we're going to get those grant dollars at the same level anymore, but if we can do similar and raise the bar in terms of capacity, then we've continued the mission and we've actually spread our ability to do it that much better. And one of the reasons why we picked DCNI, again, not just because of that data model and they've got an extremely high performance capability, but because they can spread into Amsterdam. I didn't want to make this a centric, well, it's a Schenectady thing and, sorry. It needs to be about our bigger picture and you're a key to our success. So.
And if you're thinking about opportunities, one of the ways that BCNI has diversified their revenue is to get into some of these larger projects that come in, like the DePaul East End project, where if they co-develop it, it actually helps the scoring of the application because there's a local partner involved. And they have a lot of the abilities to provide some of the services to be a co-developer. And there is a lucrative developer fee that allows them to support the projects where they're really needed, like helping, first-time homeowners or long-time elderly homeowners fix porches and things like that, where they have state funding to do that work, but it really doesn't keep doors open. So the more we can support them to do some of these other projects, if you're thinking about where the next large housing project might go in Amsterdam, happy to make that connection there as well.
And both of the original organizations were limited to where they could act.
Mhm.
And so that's been removed by doing that. The question that I've got is, what do we consider this money? Is this operating expense or non-operating expense?
On our side?
Yeah.
That is
The
operating.
25,000.
The 25,000 is part of the operating.
We need to put it in the budget.
It is. It's there's 58,000 that was set aside in 2023 because we assume it's
Okay.
going up.
All right,
That
so,
includes Nick's time and then BCNI's time.
okay,
The
so that's
63.5
what that
plus.
is, okay,
Mhm.
that answers my question.
Can't get me every time, Joe.
It's pretty good.
He is good.
That's
Consistent. Okay, a motion to move.
Motion?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Motion carries. We're excited about that. Thank you all. Okay, let's do a
The budget.
important piece of administrative work, which is adoption of our fiscal year 2023 budget, which just came out of Finance Committee.
Since we don't need to go to any, I'll move the
Second.
budget as amended in the committee.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
A good budget for 2023. Thank you Director Hogenkamp for putting that together. Okay, a zombie, 1019 Van Antwerp, Town of Niskayuna, Resolution 2022-15. You got pictures. David, can you summarize?
Yes, yes. If anyone's looking for old rotten furniture, I have some for
I
you.
was looking for that couch, actually.
This has been a long eyesore in Niskayuna, and a property that they so dearly wanted to have cleaned up, and COVID happened, and the county foreclosure auction just extended, and it just a mess. But it is a solid, structurally solid property. It'll have to be fully gutted. It's just the right kind of property that we should get into and help find the right person who can renovate this the right appropriate way, make sure all the precautions are taken with some of the exposure to the elements for a long time. The county's made it available to us. I'd like to go in. We've already just started taking some people in, the neighbors first. We say, do you know anybody who'd be interested in living next to you? We have had some interest, like to take ownership of it and start the process of finding the best use for it moving forward.
Town of Niskayuna is very happy that we're taking this action. I'm sure the neighbors are as well.
Yeah, and with the work we're doing with the zombie initiative, we'll never wait that long again.
Yeah.
That's the important part, is it won't look this way.
That's really the key. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Fantastic, motion carries. You're welcome, Town of Niskayuna. All right, another, and full disclosure, I brought this to the table. Town of Glenville was in a significant, the McKeel School had a property that they used for, I think, international students and families. They had a great program. Pandemic, program declined. The property sat fallow and empty, not necessarily abandoned, but the neighborhood turned on it. Excuse me, let me say that differently.
It's an
Kids-
attractive nuisance for children.
Yeah, kids got in there and really did a number on it. And this is in a good neighborhood. It doesn't matter if it's in a good neighborhood, a bad neighborhood. It's in a neighborhood. People live next to this school, and it became a real concern, a safety concern. And this school had to do a significant board up. And I thought it was important to help again in the town of Glenville. This resolution 22-16 is some support to get that board up done. David, could you summarize for the board?
Yeah. So they provided evidence of over $30,000 of expenses. You'll see that the property has been completely boarded up. The majority of the graffiti has been removed at this point. Some hard to get areas. There was really inappropriate things written by the graffiti, the folks who did the graffiti. They cleaned it all up. It is a great neighborhood, 38.8 acres. McKeel is now looking for kind of an exit strategy. It helps us in the short term to help them just make sure it's not a safety hazard, and it's something that could create more issues by helping clean it up. They are working to come up with a development proposal that would fit the neighborhood's needs. There are just challenges with access to the property. It's kind of tucked through one road, but happy to help. I think this opens the door for more work for us to do in Glenville, which has their share of zombie properties that could use our involvement moving forward.
Any questions?
Yeah, the question, I did ask you this before, David. This is owned by the academy.
Yes. So I'm McKeel.
Is that considered a religious institution, thereby not being able to get federal funds or state funds?
Private school, I don't know how they're aligned
Yeah.
from.
The reason I'm asking is the name of the organization,
Sure,
whether it's considered a religious institution or not,
yeah.
I will
and
have
whether
to
that ties in.
It's a private academy, and I don't know how their charter reads, Joe. So
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, that we probably have our own funds that we could use.
Yep.
That
Yeah,
are
this is
not
the Schenectady
restricted
County
under
funded.
that type of thing.
That's what we do.
Yeah. We just have to make certain that we keep.
Don't use the federal one, yep.
I mean, I think it's a good project to be able to do. I'm not necessarily in favor of the restriction. I just know
Yeah.
what exists.
Yeah, they shook the cup with their own folks, if you will. I mean, it's $30,000+ of wood screws and, I mean, these kids destroyed this place. And so this really can help us, I think, the bigger picture, trying to move the property, right? Who wants to buy this?
We won't be using any federal or state funding to support it. I'll confirm, I can't remember if it was a separate LLC that they have the property on, or if it was the actual, not-for-profit religious organization.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's not to
just-
fund their operation, so I know the restriction comes in if you're being like selective about who can,
Well,
it's not
This is
operational.
One of the things that I
100% blight
remember
mitigation.
specifically, we had a problem when I was working for Newburgh, is that we could not provide any funding for one of the churches, which went back to the Revolutionary War. And it was a historic site because Washington
Oh,
had been
wow.
there.
Yep.
And we could not give them any money at all. It was a matter of really trying to fight, how do you get money in to restore this really, really historic
Yeah.
structure?
David, I assume this is post any insurance that they have?
That is a very good question, and I can look into if they filed any insurance claims. I believe, when I talked to the headmaster, that insurance became an issue when the building went vacant. I think that is what I remember him telling me, that they either once you, it's an exclusion in your policy, that if you're keeping a vacant building, the insurance company comes back and tells you,
You're self.
sorry. I will confirm that with you, because I believe that is what they told me had happened.
The biggest impactor for, I think, that I thought was important was, David said it earlier, the graffiti on the building was significant. And just not what we, as a community, should have to tolerate or navigate. So it was important to move this. And, hopefully it'll be moved to productive use as a result. Would someone like to make a motion? Thank you, Joe. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. DiCaprio. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Thank you. Motion is moved. Okay, last order of business, new business, or consideration for the board tonight is 110 Prospect Street. Some adjustments. This is 2022-17, and it's an amendment to the sales contract. David, could you summarize?
Yep, earlier in May, we had approved selling the property to Mr. Chanju Carroll, first-time homeowner, for $190,000. He had the ability to inspect the property. There were a few things that came up that needed to be fixed. He made a new offer for $175,000, and he was looking for his specific contractors to fix the issues. Because we are under contract with BKJ Construction already, we were able to have BKJ do the work and no additional cost to us, to just make the repairs that were necessary. But at that time, we decided to put it back on the market, to just see if we had any additional offers or interest. We have had additional offers and interest. Nothing has come through and we've had additional interest, no offers as of yet. We contacted Mr. Carroll again and just to see if he was still interested for $175,000. He said that he was. I believe it's in our best interest, based on the time of year, higher interest rates, changes in the market, to go back and enter into contract with Mr. Carroll to make this property his and sell it for $175,000 at this point, which with the increase in interest rates will, the decrease in cost will continue to make it affordable for him. On the capital budgets, you'll see that we spent $220,000 on this right now. We always knew going into this, this is going to be more expensive to renovate than it was going to be to what we get at the end of the day, because we were looking for an affordable product. The city came in, split the cost with $100,000 toward us. When we do sell this property, we will recoup our costs first, and then the remaining money will go back to the city for future projects. So it's a good test. We fully gutted it. There's no asbestos in it. All new furnaces, all new utilities, and
New roof.
Yep, new roof. There'll be a property that, and it's the newer concept that we have for more multi-generational living, or wherever you go in life, 1 bedroom and then 2 larger second unit. Mr. Chanju Carroll, he is a single occupant, so he is going to live in the 1 bedroom and rent the rest out. And if things in life change, he'll move to the other one. So it's a good project. Next door, where we did 2 demolitions, Better Community Neighborhoods have fully framed out their rental project that was funded through the state. So good things happening on Prospect and still in that Eastern Avenue neighborhood.
A motion.
I will make an amendment first. David and I talked about this, and David indicated that in this thing. On this third whereas clause, I would add after the $190,000, subject to an acceptable inspection. In other words, because we had an offer and an acceptance, but the offer was made contingent. And we should put that into the resolution, and the contingency did not work out. So that's why we're going this route.
You're saying put in the language of subject to inspection.
Subject to an acceptable
Yeah,
inspection.
the 190. So Joe made the point that the board approved the 190. We entered a contract. How did the contract fall apart? Well, he had the ability to inspect the property and identified some major issues.
Deficiencies.
Yep.
Right, and that meant that the contract became null and void, but that should be in this to make it absolutely clear as you're going through.
Have changes been made to the property or is he accepting them at the lower value? is what you're saying?
We had made the improvements that needed to be made. Some of the HVAC, the sizing was off that needed to be repaired. They did that. Some electrical improvements that the BKJ and their subcontractors did to make the necessary changes.
But then he still wants the 175.
Yep, he's going to take it 175 as is at this point after the improvements we made.
Your language add simply insulates us from further changes?
No, it doesn't insulate from anything. It explains why the initial contract is dropped.
Yeah, why we.
In other words, he made an offer.
Yeah,
I see.
If
Yep.
it's on a legal basis, if he made an offer, if it was an absolute offer, we could hold him to it.
Yeah.
But it was an offer with an exception. The exception occurred, so the contract becomes null and void.
Okay,
And
I understand.
and
So
David
for archival purposes, we're putting it in subject to inspection, so if ever we look back
So
on
we
it, you
see
go,
that the
there was an inspection.
right.
Right, understood,
We'll
thank
do
you.
that, and it's in the record that David has all of that, but you just didn't put it in.
As amended, a motion.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the motion carries. That concludes our actions for tonight.
No, that includes our listed actions.
Our
Yeah, we
listed
talked, and I
actions.
know it's been a long meeting, but for new business, we just wanted to just discuss, we've had this intergovernmental cooperation agreement in place since 2015. It lays out the board members that we have here, terrific team. I think what we'd like to do is propose that the governance committee looks at that intergovernmental agreement to make sure that it's consistent with where we are moving forward. This is, the original one was 2012, and then 2015 came, and we're like, are we still going to have more foreclosing governmental units joining? This is a relatively small board, so I think that there's reason to look at that. Also, some of the best practice moving forward for not-for-profits like our own is to, in addition to a mission statement, look at how to make sure that we are properly taking into account diversity, equity, inclusion, and items along that line. We want to make sure that voices in the communities that we serve are at the table as well. So if the board would be interested, I'd like to bring the governance committee together to talk about, maybe what does a policy statement look like on that end, and then make sure that the intergovernmental cooperation agreement matches what we're trying to do. And maybe there is opportunity to, look at our committee structure, look at our board structure to determine if, there are other voices we can continue to bring to the table.
Makes
They'll
sense.
cite recommendations.
What's that?
They'll cite recommendations.
Yeah, the governance committee would make recommendations on that.
That would be the goal. That would be-
If you're proposing to do that as a separate meeting.
Yeah, I would-
Pull the governance
yeah.
committee together, talk about those topics, and then come back to the next board meeting with recommendations and go from there. Do I need to go into any kind of session? Do I need to do anything else
Nope, I just think
tonight
that
to accommodate that conversation?
no action needed. Hopefully action
All that
next
you're
meeting.
doing is the chair is agreeing with the executive director that you're directing the governance committee to look at this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's exactly the direction we need to head in. And I think it's smart to look at our cooperation agreement that hasn't been reviewed in 7 years. So, and I'm looking forward to those expanded conversations and voices at the table.
And I would suggest that it might be wise also to invite the FOGs to send a representative besides the board people who are on that committee to be there, because they're the ones who have to approve. It's not up to us to approve a change in the agreement.
I looked in 2015, the board did had a memo, a resolution asking the executive director to go to the FGUs with a proposed agreement. So we look at something
And
along
we
the
can
same
do that
lines.
after. I'm saying even before we do that, it might be to make certain that the FOGs know that we are looking at this and that we want their input as well. What do they think could be improved?
So just another opportunity, we have some additional resources, provide a little extra support for legal support and policy support. So I'd like to just clean things up a little bit and know that have modern documents moving forward.
Smart. Yes, I'd like to see
Well,
us
there's
do that.
representatives from each of the FOGs, the appointment. It's a matter that, as far as I can see, there's only one staff person who really is speaking for one of the FOGs here. Everybody else is either legislative or volunteer. I just think it's a wise thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Yeah, that sounds
reach
great.
out or have you reach out to leadership within each one of the foreclosing governmental units and include them or make a presentation to them coming out of the governance committee. So,
Perfect.
great. Thank you. Any other new business, David?
No?
Any
Thank you for
old
your
business?
time.
I have one item that I
Sorry.
was not kidding at the beginning. I will be 79 next month. I think it is wise that we establish the position of assistant treasurer in case something happens, so that if there needs to be a transfer, that it can go smoothly. And we have somebody who knows what we are doing from that. That's a bylaw change.
Yeah, so the governance
If
committee
we're
can
gonna do
look at that as
that's
well.
something We
We
should
can
look
put
at
that out.
that.
If you can hold on until the governance committee, then
Well, I don't intend
We'll
on
put that-
leaving anything time soon unless the elevator goes out again, and that's another matter to be able to
I'll walk
take
you
care
down
of.
the stairs.
See, I was thinking you just wanted a birthday party.
I just wanted more members, so if the elevator's down, only, someone can say, well, there's gonna be a quorum, so I know this.
But, no, I think that, I do think it's prudent. I mean, on the type of thing.
Well, we appreciate that sensitivity and we appreciate your ability to be protective of this board.
No, I think all
Thank
of
you.
the other positions on the board, it's easy enough. If something happens to one of the other officers, it's fairly easy to step in. But I think it's less easy to step in for the treasurer.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you understand the nuances, and so thank you. And you've done a tremendous job for 8 years now, I think. So, thank you.
And the last item, where are we on our anniversary?
So Joe has asked a number of times for what should we do from a 10-year anniversary? How do we celebrate that? How do we communicate that out to our FGU partners, the community at large, just in general? And so the we add that to the governance committee.
Yeah, we
discussion.
will. And at the New York
Because it's
State,
real,
yeah.
and I'm not dismissing it at all.
I know.
I haven't put as much thought into it as, well, we'll do something on our annual holiday get together, but it's really more about telling the community what we've done over 10 years.
It's how do we get something that's out to the community?
Yeah.
And what we do is fairly insular.
Yeah.
Including our party on the type of thing. It's not saying anything else, but there's some way to be able to do that. And it's possible to get maybe somebody with the National Land Bank groups to come into the community and tell the community, outside the community, what we are doing and how that's helping them. And they can recognize individual projects, but they may not see the big picture. And they don't want to hear it from us.
At the New York State Land Bank Association meeting, they did recognize our land bank among
did.
others. There's a presentation that Kristen and Rich did together, I believe. I missed that first.
We killed.
But to talk about our
We
accomplishments.
killed.
Did you?
I
We did.
missed it,
Alright.
but everyone told me about Rich's energy. I said, I know Rich, there's always energy. But they
They
are
called me out as
also-
the oldest land bank member there, right? As in, you've been here the longest.
And they didn't have you go walk upstairs to do this.
No,
It was upstairs.
it wasn't upstairs. We were younger then. And, we did a great job. It was great. A lot of people did just what they had been doing. And we did the same thing, but we did it with a whole lot of energy and verve. And we
There is a
went-
publication that will be coming out to talk about the 10 years of land banking. It'd be a great time for us to also take that to our FGUs and tell our story, plus what land banking is.
And as I say, get the Gazette and the Times you need to do. So give them an opportunity to do a story boosting the community.
It's one of the benefits of being in this office right here. We know how to bring press to bear, and if they think it's a valuable story, I'm sure they'll run it. So
Danielle put our milestone piece together for that publication. So if you don't like it,
Danielle, when we first met, I asked, no, just. Okay, any other new business, Joe? Anything else?
No.
Any other surprise announcements?
Where's the 79th birthday party?
There isn't.
Bob, great to see you at the table.
Here's your
Thank you,
pleasure.
as
Thank you.
always. I know you've, all is well, and you are back into full swing of things.
And I'd like to thank this board for the support that was given for me to continue on. Looking forward to it.
Everyone's contributions really count here, and we appreciate yours significantly, so thank you.
10 years, a long time.
Surely is, sir.
Amazing.
Surely is. It's a testament, I think, to this group. I think a lot of boards maybe, let's do something else. And I think that I appreciate everyone's contribution and commitment to our community and what we've done. And couldn't have done it without you, David. So well done, sir.
How long have you been?
2017, I think.
2017.
We've got good talent. Let's keep it going.
Well, we
Yeah.
still miss Steve. He's doing great things in Troy.
Yeah, look,
So,
we don't have this if Steve
Does he have to wear bulletproof vest?
the meeting, so we can do the video.
Sorry, yes, I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Did you